Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. This is Bob Pompeani, joined tonight by Chris Mueller up at 93.7 The Fan, and this is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. 412-575-2600 is the number to call, or you can hit us up on Twitter at KDPomp, at Chris Mueller, PGH. Pirates had a day off. They're in Toronto. Toronto's an interesting team, an interesting city for sure. But this Blue Jays team, I thought they were going to be a lot better than what they've shown so far. There's still a lot of season left. What's your thoughts on what they've done and how the Pirates match up, knowing that they're not going to see either Skeens or Jones?
Well, any series where the Pirates aren't able to throw one or both of those guys, I immediately feel a little more shaky about, although it's not like Mitch Keller and Bailey Falter have been chopped liver for the Pirates. The Jays, I would almost be, let me put it this way, if I were a Jays fan, I would just be very bitterly disappointed. You've got some big names. You've got Vlad Jr. there. You've got high expectations. You're really a huge city. I mean, what, fourth biggest city in North America or whatever, in the United States and Canada, excuse me, and you're not getting anything in that division. You're sitting there. You're dead last in the AL East. That would be bitterly disappointing. Second only to being a Mets fan, I would say, among big city teams and being immensely frustrated. Maybe third to the White Sox too, Bob, but the Jays are supposed to be better. The Pirates, I'll tell you this much. I don't know if you agree with this. If the Pirates fancy themselves a team that's 26-30 but could be a lot better and should be a lot better and has the moxie and the stuff, go up there and win this series. That's what I would say. Like, show that you're better than a team that's floundering. Kick them when they're down. I'm not positive that the Pirates are going to do that because that ballpark can be something of a launching pad still, but if you think you're really going to be a player down the stretch in the NL wildcard picture at the very least, go up there and show me something against an AL East team, even one that's currently in the cellar.
Yeah, but it's a very talented team, as you said, and then they come home. They got the Dodgers coming in, so it's a pretty good stretch of games coming up. I'm interested to see some of the pitching matchups in that series as it returns home to PNC Park. Jalen Waddle today. We talked last night about what San Francisco did, but Jalen Waddle today gets $85 million guaranteed. Now, this is opposite Tyreek Hill, who has a big contract as well, and a lot of people are suggesting maybe the Steelers should get into this kind of business, knowing that down the road Pickens probably going to get some big money, but they still don't have anyone opposite. The fact that San Francisco did what they did yesterday, does it give you any more thought maybe that, San Francisco may be looking to now move even more so than before Brandon Ayuk?
Well, we talked about this with you today on the show on the PM team, Bob, and you said, I think, 30% chance. You kind of thought about it for a little bit, which is a good idea when Pony puts you on the under the broiler like that to at least think about it for a little bit. I know that feeling all too well. I still think that that's actually higher than I expected. I guess this is one of those things for me, Bob, where I think the Niners still really want a lot in terms of draft capital, which I think would be the bigger holdup. I've tried to kind of disabuse myself of the notion that, you can't pay this guy $30 million. They can if they want to. I'm just a little bit lower on Ayuk than everybody else. I heard Donnie Football. He had an excellent interview with a Steelers film kind of guru. I think it was Derek Bell from one of the many great Steelers sites out there. And he said he wouldn't have a problem paying Ayuk top 5 money. A lot of people feel the same way in kind of the advanced football community. They say this guy, if anything, is underappreciated. He'd give the Steelers an instant, wide receiver 1, and Pickens would stay like a dynamic, explosive wide receiver 2. But, Bob, don't you wonder about that? I mean, it's like a chicken and the egg argument. You say, do you want those two in there in a run-heavy offense with quarterbacks who you really don't know a ton about? Or do you roll the dice and say this? Both of those guys there will make that offense that much better, and whoever's under center is going to have a much easier time of it because they're throwing to those two players. I find myself in the middle. I still lean no on Ayuk. I don't know if he's actually going to get moved. I'm sure he and his agent will make it uncomfortable. I just can't see the Steelers actually pulling this off.
Neither can I, but percentage-wise, 30 still gives them a shot. And I do think that if he were to come here, whoever's a quarterback, and I believe it'll be Russell Wilson to start, that all of a sudden the options are there, and there's a lot of different options. Real quick, if I had to give you this question, which Steeler is the next Steeler to get a long-term deal? And I would imagine, that Cam Hayward, it's not long-term, but let's just say a new deal by the end of training camp. Which Steeler would you pick?
A new deal by the end of training camp kind of changes the calculus for me, because I was thinking like long-term young guys who are already showing themselves to be really good. Don't you feel like Keanu Benton a couple of years from now is earmarked to get some sort of significant deal? I would say that's one, but if you put the tag on it by the end of camp, it just seems like momentum is building that Pat Freiermuth's going to get one. Don't you feel the same way?
Yes.
In this offense, we hear so much about how Arthur Smith utilizes the tight end, and I hear people saying that they're going to have, if you thought their offense was rudimentary in high school level with Matt Canada, it's a totally different animal with Smith, and he's going to have Freiermuth lined up everywhere. I'm wary of that, to be perfectly honest here. I'm wary of it, but I think that's what's going to end up happening, is that they're going to give him a new deal.
And I think it'll be a franchise-friendly kind of deal. Good for him, good for them, one of those. I think it's easier to achieve that. And then we'll wait on see what happens with Cam Hayward as this thing all progresses. One more week of OTAs and then a mini camp and then a little bit of vacation time. We'll talk about it when we come back with you at 412-575-2600. Call us, share your opinions. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We're on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. All right, welcome back. Our GMC Sierra tweet of the night. This is it from the Pirates, and this is Paul Skeens after 4 outings. You can see the numbers are elite already, and he's only 22 years of age, a fresh 22 as he just had his birthday yesterday. He'll be on the mound next week when the Pirates come home. In the meantime, they'll take on Toronto over the weekend. Chris, I don't know if you saw what happened with the Mets last night and their pitcher who threw his glove into the stands. And then he said something after the game, which I think was lost in translation. I'm not sure what happened there. He basically said that he felt he was a bad teammate. Everyone who's there thought he said team, and they made it out to be like he was just dissing the Mets, who are bad, but he's of no position to make that statement, only because he's been worse. But I think it got lost in the translation, and I thought he got a raw deal for it, even though he got DFA, and he earned that DFA for being very bad. But that was kind of a weird situation in New York.
Well, his numbers, if you looked at them, are not like that atrocious. At least I looked at like the ERA. It's in the 3s. I know that's not a very telling stat for a reliever necessarily, but I did watch it a couple of times and came away thinking it was the same as you, or thinking the same as you did, excuse me, Bob, that he might have gotten a raw deal, lost in translation. It sounded more like teammate, but well, I got to let my guy live here. If he did say I'm on the worst team in Major League Baseball, he was not really wrong. They are a dysfunctional mess. They are a joke of a franchise, constantly in Big Brother Yankees' shadow. They don't know how to get out of it. They haven't even had like the moment of glory that the White Sox had with their dominant run to a World Series before the Cubs had won one to end their drought. Honestly, I've thought about this. Pony has renounced his Mets fandom, and I almost don't blame him because that was his team from birth, but they are just nothing but heartache and annoyance. You expect a team in New York, which is a baseball city, big time. You expect both of those two teams to operate in a certain way. The Yankees, by and large, do. The Mets do not. I mean, they can't get out of their own way, and with their resources, the fact that this continues to happen, I think, is pretty pathetic.
Yeah, it is, which is why I think they're going to move some players at the trade deadline, which will raise some interesting scenarios. Let's get to the phone lines, Chris. It's 412-575-2600. We have Kirk and Manor first. Hey, Kirk, what's up?
Good evening, guys. Hey, I want to run something past you as far as acquiring Chapman as the close or the setup guy, and spending. He makes more money than anyone on the team at the moment. They were planning on trading or sending him to a contender. When did the Pirates become contenders? And his schemes on that trading block. Thanks a lot, guys.
Skeens? Well, wait a minute. I didn't understand if that's what you said at the end. As far as Chapman, the best thing you can hope is he gets it together, and then if you're not in contention, you can do it, and he'll end up with a team like Texas like he did last year. Maybe you get something back. That's not the plan here, though. The plan is to compete, and, with these pitchers being what they are, starters I'm talking about, Chris, if it continues, they should be in contention in this very mediocre division. I don't see a reason why they shouldn't. Unless, their hitting gets completely off track to the point where it goes back to the couple of weeks ago where they couldn't get anyone in.
Well, maybe if they trade Paul Skeens like Kirk was suggesting, they'll be out of the race. Couldn't we have Aroldis Chapman? Maybe the Mets, since they just DFA'd a bullpen guy, I think the Mets could use a hard-throwing lefty in their bullpen. How about we send him Aroldis Chapman right now as the centerpiece of a deal that brings Pete Alonso back for a 70-game rental? You like that one? Maybe we can make that happen with Steve Cohen. As to the back half of Kirk's question, or whatever that was about Paul Skeens, I beg of people, I'm begging you right now, as a guy who is, Bob, I try not to be cynical, you know I am, just for the time being, enjoy the fact that the most electric young arm in the sport plays for the Pirates. I can't tell you how many times I've already seen he'll be on the Yankees, he'll be wearing pinstripes in 5 or 6 years. Just enjoy it. Can you not let yourself like anything for 5 minutes, people?
Yeah, and the
My
thing
goodness.
is, he's here for a long period of time. He and Jones now both, they're synchronized. They're going to be here for many years. This is why at those prices, which they control, they have every reason to go out and bring people in. So they didn't do that so much this offseason. But let's say they're close and they miss out barely, and they're going to bring back this pitching staff. You have Keller already signed. You have these other 2 guys, and if you add anything to it or falters for real, there's no reason why they can't go out and be a huge spender in this. I'm really tired of that part of it, though, Chris. They have opportunities to add to something that could be very good, and they only have a limited time if you believe that they'll end up someplace else. So take advantage of that time. It's not unlike having a rookie quarterback who's on a very small contract.
Bottom line is they should have done more to augment this year's lineup, and if they get close this year but they need a push in the lineup section, in the lineup department, over the top next year, and they don't do it, it's a complete indictment on ownership's commitment and the front office's commitment and ability to execute a game plan to put a winning club on the field.
Absolutely. The time is now to strike, which is why I think if they're contending at the deadline, you got to think of creative ways to bring people in here and add to what you have to try to make a push, because you never know. All I know is once you get into a short series, I dare say I'll take my chances with those 2 guys and Keller over a lot of teams in a best of 5 or best of 7 or best of whatever.
If you put them in a wild card series where you can throw Skeens, Jones, Keller, because now the wild card's best of 3, I don't really care if the Pirates are the home team in that wild card series or not. I love their chances when they're throwing those 3, because I'm not somebody. There's also a bizarre, you want to talk about not being able to enjoy anything and being damaged cosmically by this team over the years, which I guess I understand. I've already got people saying that Jared Jones has been on a real downturn for multiple starts and that this last one was the culmination, and now he's going to go in the crapper for the year. I don't understand that, Bob. This guy's still an electric arm. He had a bad game, and I think he was getting ready to pitch the day before, and he got thrown off by it. But, yeah, I would agree with you. You get this team somehow to any playoff series, they are going to be a very difficult out with that pitching.
Chuck in Uniontown. Hello, Chuck. What's going on? Hello, Chuck.
Yeah, here I am.
Go right ahead.
Bob, Mo, I wanted to ask you officially, just a brief thing. Did the Pittsburgh Muellers go out of existence?
Didn't they combine rosters or something with this new league?
Such as it was, yes, such as it was, the Pittsburgh Maulers ceased to exist. Farewell, Maulers, we hardly knew ye. Again.
Well, all those leagues, every time they come around, people get excited. Some do. I don't, because I never watch it. And that's one thing. I watch a lot, Chris. Do you ever seriously watch any of those leagues? I mean,
I haven't made it a point to watch the UFL, but it's interesting that you bring up the whole every time these leagues come around, no one really watches, people get excited, but then the product fizzles. I think they did the average viewership for the UFL for, I think, basically this season's run. They were getting something like 916,000 viewers per game on average. You want to know what your average NHL regular season game got this year?
I think
936,000. So listen, if you're running an alternative spring football league and you are getting the average viewership of an NHL regular season game essentially, and more than I think MLS and more than the WNBA, you're not doing half bad as an alternative league. You're really not. If you can get almost 1 million people on average to tune into one of those games, I think the UFL at the very least is going to stick for a while.
Well, and from a television point of view, knowing that there's so much blank space, especially in this time of year, it doesn't cost all that much for those leagues to go out and for the networks to acquire them. So they can sell product and still make money, even if it's not as big a money as you would get normally. So for them, it's easy to do, which is why if you look around, you'll see all sorts of things on television, which you never thought you'd see because it's such an affordable expense, and yet you can make money on it. People will buy it for some reason. And I'm talking about stuff like poker, stuff like What's that sport where you slap people in the face and they, you try to knock them out?
I don't like that. I'm a
it.
boxing fan. I'm a boxing fan, which is a violent sport that almost comes with like brain damage as part of the deal. But everybody knows that going in, and there's something almost sweet science about it, right? That's why they call it the sweet science. That slapping thing, you can get that off my TV forever. I think that's barbaric. I think that's ridiculous. That makes MMA look like it's like a school play, by the way. But speaking of which, Bob, how about we pitch this to the networks? Bob Pompeani, Richie Walsh, Chris Mueller, Joe Starkey, a 4-ball golf match for the ages.
Hey, we could do that. We could do that on social media. We could make that something.
Yes.
So
why don't we pitch it to
are you telling me that you have
X?
elected Joe Starkey to be your teammate? Is that what you're doing? You just did that.
God, no. I'm just talking for entertainment value. If I wanted to win, I would pick somebody else.
Okay. But, hey, we should do that if there's time. I just find it hard to find time, but I think that would be some. We've done it before. Rich and I have gone out and done stuff on, matches, and people seem to be interested. There's a lot out there on social media. They'd all want to,
let's be honest, though. They'd all want to see me lose. If it was you and Richie teamed up, you guys would be, if this was like a studio wrestling show, you guys would be the baby faces and I would be the heel. People would want to see me lose because I melt down spectacularly. They would almost certainly get what they want. We're delivering a product and delivering what the viewers want. I think this is a win-win for everybody involved.
You made 2 birdies at Oakmont. Don't sell yourself short. We got to take a break. We're way up against it. We'll take it right here on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.